Greetings, everyone from Mississippi. My name is Felix, and today I'll be doing a presentation, the Philtech history of Roberto Clemente on stamps. I'm also one of the ATA ambassadors and one of the board of directors of the ATA. Pause for topical. That was our theme for the month. Again, this is from me to you, Roberto Clemente. Now, Roberto Clemente played the game of baseball with lots of passion and a unique style of playing. He captured 11 Golden Gloves for fielding, held a 317 average lifetime batting average. In 1966, he was named the league MVP. In 1960 and 1971, he led the Pirates to world championships. His teammates, other major league players, fans from around the world, especially in Puerto Rico, Clemente represented more than just a great athlete and ball player. He was also a compassionate humanitarian. Much of his time that he spent away from his love of playing, he worked helping people underprivileged in Puerto Rico and elsewhere. And that's where, in his capacity, while trying to go to Nicaragua and deliver a supply of relief to the people of Nicaragua during the earthquake, the plane crashed and he lost his life on New Year's Eve in 1972. Now, the life of Roberto Clemente was a monument to his belief. One of his quotes was, "Accomplishment is something you cannot buy. If you have a chance to do something for somebody and you do not make the most of it, you're wasting your time. If you don't make the most of it, you're wasting your time on this earth." His time and good deeds were not wasted. His incredible legacy, both on the field of baseball and off the field, will always be remembered. And as part of that legacy, today I'm sharing the history of Roberto Clemente on stamp. Not only
Hey,
as
Felix,
yeah.
Felix, can you turn your volume up a little bit? You're a little bit on the faint side.
Turn it up.
Yeah, it sounds better. Thank you.
Okay. Not only as a humanitarian, but as a professional. Now, since I'm talking about professional, we had an awesome month of stamp collecting, and that just didn't happen overnight. So I want to thank three people today for their leadership and hard work. The first one, of course, is our second director, everything behind the scenes in operation. And that's her topic right there. She collects sheeps. Then I want to collect our fearless leader, my president. She collects manatees. I didn't have a cabbage stamp, so I didn't put the cabbage stamp. But she collects Florida manatees. Now, of course, I asked Bill DeWitt to host because I think he's like a radio host. So I like him. So I put the Casey Jones stamp there for him. Thank you. And at the bottom, that's our topical guide there, Topical Time Journal. So if you want a free pumpkin on stamp checklist, visit the ATA and you still could get it for free. Now, Roberto Clemente. This is a page done by Evans Craft, and of course talks about the professional and humanitarian. One thing I want to highlight, of course, on September 30th was when he hit his last hit and became a member of the 3,000 member club. Also, down in the humanitarian, you can see Quiet Way, that many people did not know what he did for many people. Now, in 1955, Roberto Clemente met somebody called Pittsburgh Phil Dorsey. Now, Phil Dorsey, he was a postal worker. He's an African-American, and he's the one that mentored when Roberto Clemente arrived to play for the Pirates. He taught him how to learn English, take around, because during those times we had segregation. So he helped him, mentor him, and for the rest of the 18 years, Roberto Clemente worked with him. Also, he attended Roberto Clemente's wedding in 1964 with Ms. Vera Clemente. Now, this picture right here, December 31st is when Clemente passed away. Now, a week prior, Clemente was in Puerto Rico, traveling throughout Puerto Rico with band players, baseball players, collecting supplies to help. This photo is from Ileana Martinez. They believe that this photo was taken 3 days before Clemente passed away. The thing about this photo was that you see Clemente smiling. Most pictures you will not see him smiling, but the photo was taken by her mom, and she requested, "Can you smile?" And he did. So this photo right here is very important. That's the way he was still doing 3 days prior to flying out to Nicaragua. Now the plan. We have to have a plan. I gave you the purpose. Now the plan is we're going to walk to first base. We're going to highlight past presentations, National Stamp Collecting Month, Topical 102, since Jennifer did 101, professional organizations, journals, and handbooks to include some books. Then Since we're comfortable, warmed up, we're going to go ahead and steal second. Talk about Roberto Clemente on cachets. Prior to stamps being issued, Roberto Clemente reading mail, a book art by Leroy Newman. Then we're going to run or jog to third base. And we're going to talk about the 8 official Roberto Clemente stamps. The 4 is a question mark because if you attended Gene Wang's ceremony, there's stamps out there that are not really official. I don't want to call them bogus. I don't want to call them fake. I don't really want to call them Cinderellas because they don't qualify for none of those areas. But I still want to share them to include souvenir sheets. And then we're going to slide into home plate. We're going to talk about Juan Lopez Bonilla. He was the designer of the first U.S. issued Roberto Clemente stamp. Talk about Ronald Trino. And then we're going to talk about my collection, Scott 29-7, which will only be part of it. I can't show you the whole collection. We'll be here a few days. And then we scream for. It's something we're going to do, which I do when I work with students. We have some fun activity at the end of the presentation. And then questions and comments. Again, if you've been to my past presentation, there's 3 things that I promise will happen. We're going to learn, we're going to travel through time, and we're going to connect with people, places, and things because stamps teach. Now, I want to thank everybody that did presentation, so I'm going to highlight all 12 presentations. The first one, Topical 101. We learned about basic information. We said there were no rules, but then a professor showed up and said, no, there are rules. So I'll say there are guidelines and we can bend some rules. The next one was with Emil, EFOs, how to identify them, how to integrate them into your collections. Then we went to France. Tom picked us all up and took us to France and learned about the different bridges, the most beautiful bridge, the Alexander III Bridge. Then with Ian, he told us about the political science on stamps and different messages, hidden messages on stamps. This one's from the Dominican Republic, and he spoke about the Middle East. Then John Hammond came from Florida and took us on a grab bag for presidents. So we talked about presidents around the world, how to collect them, and to include U.S. elections. Then we went to beautiful Squim. Vera took us over there. And like I told my wife, she said, what you want for your birthday this year? I said, no, next year. I want to go to Washington. I want to go to CPEX because I think that was the best virtual show out there. And because I want to visit Squim and hopefully work at a lighthouse for a whole week. Then we went transportation. We went from the steam age to the combustion engines with Bill DeWitt. Then Tom came back again, straight from Tennessee. Took us around and learned about indigenous people. Also about in 2007, about how the UN passed a declaration of rights for indigenous people. And then postcards from Elizabeth Hurley. She shows how to variety, how to collect, and also how to exhibit postcards. This one's from John Hammond. It was gifted to me. So that one also tells a story. And then 2 days ago, we talked about the pandemic. Gene Wang talked about the postal history, postal markings, and how it has contributed to the postal philatelity. And they the typewriter, which Michelle Bressel noticed, and now she's going to collect that and hopefully give a session and talk to us about typewriter on stamps. Rewriting history. And then finally will be today's presentation will be a Roberto Clemente stamps. Now, if you like these topics, most of them will be uploaded to our website under resources, americantopical.org. Now, if you watch them all and you're tired and you want us to do no more topics, all you have to do is visit our Facebook page. Every Tuesday, we have Topical Tuesday. That's the Home Topical Tuesday. And it's free. All you got to do is join, type ATA. Now, if you type ATA on the Facebook and it says Adventure Hub, hit like also. It's going to redirect you to the ATA Facebook group. Now, October is National Stamp Collecting Month. Now, in 1984, the theme was Fall in Love with Stamp Collecting. That was a collaboration with the USPS, Philatelic Organizations, and the American Philatelic Society. They also created a pamphlet, which was 10 easy ways to start collecting stamps. And of course, it has to cancel, so I made part of that of my collection. Now, that's not the only thing happening during October month. A lot of things are happening. Hispanic American Heritage Month. Now, Clarence McKnight from Esper, he's the webmaster and also one of the editors. He gave an awesome presentation during the APS Stamp Chat. Also, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Also, if you've been getting mail lately, you see that big machine cancel about Energy Awareness Month. Then also the census. This year we had to complete our census for 2020, and that's the first stamp that was issued in Japan. And the reason I know that because I own the ATA handbook of what's first. Also, big push on registering and voting. So remember, it's your choice, just vote. And the most important thing this month, everybody that has a happy birthday this month, happy birthday. Now, so we talk about what's your topic. Down here in Mississippi, in our area, Halloween got canceled. But this is Marvin. It's supposed to be Marvin, the stamp mummy. But I want to call him the stamp mummy, but I couldn't because my wife would not let me use a coil of stamps to wrap him up. So the way he's wrapped up, that's the way he looks. But if you really want to know about topics, you want me to pick a topic for you, I can pick a topic. Most likely, you're going to get a penguin because I have a lot of penguins on stamps that I want to give away. So that might be your topic. But if not, if you want to know about topics, another thing to do is taste the topicals. Now, we have the ATA, thanks to Vera Feltz, Dawn Hammond, Jennifer Miller, and Barbara Asher. We have a taste of topicals for Puerto Rico. And I guarantee you, and out of those 30 stamps, one is going to be this Roberto Clemente stamp. If you look at the catalog value for the stamp, it's $4. It only costs $6 if you remember, $7 if you're not a member. So you're already saving money there and 29 additional stamps. So if you want to know about Puerto Rico, please, you can order your Taste of Topical. Now, my story. I grew up in New Jersey. Both my parents were from Puerto Rico. And I retired in Mississippi and decided to live here until God says I got to go. Now, one thing about Mississippi, when I first decided to live in Mississippi, one of the locals here told me, you got to do two things if you want to stay in Mississippi. You got to hunt or you got to fish. So I paused a few seconds. I said, can I add another category? He said, yeah, sure. I said, stamp collecting. So now you got 3 categories that you can choose. Now, if you ever end up in Mississippi, let them know you're a stamp collector and you can live in Mississippi. Now, in 1998, 4 things happened in my life. I was stationed in McGuire Force Base, New Jersey. I applied for special duty assignment to jump out of aircraft and do communications and joint special operation units. I was accepted to go to Florida in Tampa, MacDill Air Force Base. I collected my first stamp. I became a stamp collector, Sky 801. I married Esbelia. I met Esbelia in 98, and then I married her 2 years later. And then another thing that happened was I learned about flea markets. I discovered flea markets. Now, I put those how it happened. But of course, in case my wife is watching this, the most important thing that happened was this right here. I met Esbelia. I just want that for the record. That's why we're recording. Now, what I found at flea market was my first stamp of Roberto Clemente in a frame. We love Puerto Rico, Roberto Clemente. So I still have that since 1998. I might send it to the APS for a certificate, but they don't know what the feedback's going to be. So my topicals. Now, this is the way I collect, because if I've mentioned all my topics, I'll be here forever. So I collect Mississippi as one of my main topics and Puerto Rico as a main topic. Now, when I collect Roberto Clemente, I put him under Puerto Rico. Now, for Mississippi, I collect Ida B. Wells. Now, they all connect. They all connect. And then, of course, something that does not connect, but I still collect, is penguins on stamps. Now, topic connections. I really wanted to call this one Centipede because I was in Puerto Rico showing a group of students in the mall about stamp collecting. They had a stamp that showed like long perforations at the ends, and they're like, looks like a centipede. So we talk about centipedes, millipedes, and segments and all that stuff. So I said, hey, maybe it's a different way to collect. So anytime I get a stamp, I try to dissect it. So then what I do is look at the subject and I say, okay, I collect that with stamps, with flags on stamps. That's a connection. I can also collect it with other baseball players that play for the Pirates, like William Stargell. I could also collect it as far as Hispanic American on stamps. If you notice, in 1984, the only stamp without letter C on 20 cents was this one right here. Because the following one, Vietnam, put the C back on. And it's not an error. Also, I collect American libraries on stamps. And then Learning Never Ends on stamp. Now, the connection with these three stamps is Bradbury Thompson. Bradbury Thompson was the actual art director, and he helped design and was part of the CSAC, Citizen Stamp Arresting Committee, doing all these three stamps right here. Another connection is Yale University, and it's a postcard for Yale University. Now, what connects all three is that the designer, Juan Lopez Bonilla, designed that stamp. He graduated from Yale University, and his professor was Barry Thompson. And then the end one is a photo, it's an image from a painting from Joseph Alberts. He's the one that introduced the program, the arts program, modern art, to Yale University. And he also was a professor. And then Bradbury Thompson professor. So that's the connection. If you want to collect a topic, that doesn't have to be a stamp. It could be just a subject. Another connection, which is the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which has been given to people that are currently living, people that have passed away. Hundreds and hundreds of people have received this medal. I would like, hopefully, and somebody's here at CSAC to hear this, and the Stamp Arts Committee, that hopefully there'll be a stamp issue on this, just like they did for the Medal of Honor for Vietnam and Korea, that they included people who were living were on the outside, and everybody that had passed away were on the inside, the names were written. So I think this will connect all together and introduce new stamp collectors. And then, of course, the first day of issue will be at Boston 26 World Expo, where I'll be exhibiting my first big exhibit, hopefully win the grand prize. Now, searching for topics. This is a different way here. Now, since I collect Puerto Rico Canito, the reason I found this was because on the bottom right, you'll see Puerto Rico. These are all different teams that played in Nicaragua during the 20th World Championship of Amateur Baseball. Now, if you look at the dates, it said November 15, December 5th, 1972. That was the 5th was 17 days before the earthquake in Nicaragua. And then it was 26 days before Clemente was on his way from Puerto Rico to Nicaragua. He passed away. Now, the thing that connects Roberto Clemente to this is that he was the manager of the Puerto Rico team during November 15 and December 5th, 1972. So he really had a relationship in Nicaragua, and that's why they loved him so much, because he helped before this earthquake happened. So that's a connection. So if you do go to stamp shows, instead of going to topics specific by stamps individually, I say go to souvenir sheets, because I collect sweet potatoes, and I found sweet potatoes on the outside tabs of sheets, because Sweet Potato Crunch, Mississippi. Now, professional organizations. I recommend, the reason I find information is because I belong to different organizations. You'll notice today that the American First Day Cover Society is one specifically. Esper Stamps also, because I'm able to make connections with the Black heritage, Black baseball players that have significantly contributed to the post office, to philately, and to baseball. And then Puerto Rico, Sociedad Filatelica de Puerto Rico. That's the website. We just started a new website, and I recommend them because, of course, the first day ceremony was in Puerto Rico for Roberto Clemente, and that was 3 years after the ATA was established. Now, Collectors Club, I'm not a member on this one, but I put it there because Dan Piazza gave an awesome presentation about baseball. I did not know the National Postal Museum, before it was built, it used to be a baseball stadium there where people played, and post office had teams and they played there. Now, of course, Penguins on Stamp, I would promote that because I'm mostly the webmaster. That's why it's there. And of course, your local clubs, important to support them. And I belong to the Gulf Coast Stamp Club. Now, journals and handbooks. In 1984, Puerto Rico, the society produced a book during the first day ceremony. It has an awesome article about Roberto Clemente. It's in Spanish, but also we have articles are in English. Now, of course, 2013, the APS decided to put Roberto Clemente on a stamp on the cover. If I was not a member, I would automatically become a member just because of that journal right there. So that's just an advertising point right there. How to recruit people to join. Now, we also have handbooks. I said earlier, I find a lot of stuff because I use the What's First handbook and also our latest book, Topical Adventure. Also, I believe that you still could check on our website and register to be able to win a Topical Adventure handbook. Now, 2 other books here, but I recommend if you know authors or if you're writing a book that to collaborate with them. The one on the left says, Papi, ¿quién era Roberto Clemente? Dad, who was Roberto Clemente? Now, I was able to collaborate with Nelson Garcia Santos, and he included all 8 stamps and information about Roberto Clemente. So now when somebody reads about Clemente, they're learning about the stamps on Roberto Clemente. And then I was stationed in 2010 in Japan. Still didn't know really no Japanese, couldn't speak. But when I went to a bookstore, I already noticed that was Roberto Clemente. So this is a great book that you'll see that Roberto Clemente has been recognized around the world. And they had translated his book. This was by Kazuo Sayama. Now, cachets. I talked earlier about cachets before a stamp came out. I know baseball cards were out before that, like rookie cards, magazines, etc., photos. But I'm talking about baseball cards. At first, I thought I only had the only one, which was from Argentina. But Rafael Perez, which is a member from Society of Puerto Rico and also an eBay dealer, he showed me this one from Israel. And it was in 1978. And it was done by Seagrill. Only 125 were hand painted, and this is number 62. Now, the one I have is not hand painted, and only 300 were made. And it was in 1982. And this is from Kansas, Argentina. And you see some political stuff there about the Falkland Islands in Argentina, like a war issue. And it was canceled there. And of course, they have other players, but I focus on Roberto Clemente. Now, this one here is the book art by Mimi and Roy. I like this one because it makes a connection. Because this is the way Roberto Clemente probably got his motivation to play even harder, because he probably got negative feedback or positive feedback. Or since he was away from Puerto Rico, this was a way for him to make that connection with his culture, with his people, and his family. And also makes connection with me, because this photo right here allowed me to be a better leader when I was a drill sergeant in basic training, because I allowed my soldiers during mail call to take time to read their letters. Because that way, while I observed them, I saw the nonverbals and say, hey, what's going on in the family? He looks sad today. Maybe something's going on. Let me talk to him. So I was able to establish communications with him, especially those that never receive a letter. I had 6 weeks with them and never received a letter. So what's going on? Did they have a family? What was the connection? So sometimes I told them, maybe you should do the first part and write a letter. So that's why I like this one here, because it shows him in a place that he's there by himself, the whole little world, reading his letters. Hopefully, somebody has one of these letters that I could obtain. Now, the first stamp to be issued was 22 December 1980, 13 Caicos. The interesting about this here, that it was as a human rights, not really as a baseball player, but it's a stamp that has almost everything about baseball and Roberto Clemente. You see the catch, you see the umpire, you see him batting, and you see Roberto Clemente. And one thing you need to notice is his baseball cap. On this one, you see it's yellow or it's going to be black. The one issued by the United States was white. And of course, he's there with great people, great leaders like Martin Luther King, John F. Kennedy, Harriet Tubman, and Sir Frank Howell. Now, this is the back. So this was part of a presentation pack, and this is how you received them. And then this is the only sample that I've been able to, first day cover that I've been able to find with all of them there. And then, of course, there's some that were made in Puerto Rico in 1984 that used the Roberto Clemente stamp from 1984 with this one here. But I have not seen any regular mail, letters, etc. Now, the second one was issued in 1984, August 17, at the 50th anniversary of Roberto Clemente's birth year. Now, this one I'll talk later on, but this is a first day cover from Amy Faust. Nicaragua, later, 25th October, issued a set of 7 stamps. Now, so you see there, Roberto Clemente the flag. They picked different countries, and you see for the U.S., they picked Babe Ruth. And comparing this stamp with the U.S. stamp, he's the only player that they have issued a stamp in the same year and the shortest amount of time. So Roberto Clemente was issued going August and October. No other baseball player has received 2 stamps within 1 year from 2 different countries at the same time. Like that. Of course, now Nicaragua, I do have the full sheets canceled and not canceled. But what I found interesting, the ones that are not canceled full sheets, what are hard to find, have a serial number on the top right-hand corner. Now, the ones that are canceled do not. And then the cancellation date is the 31st of October. So I don't know if that was somebody just went to the post office, got a cancel sheet, but some reason they're not canceled. The thing is, I'm not able to find the information, even though I went to Nicaragua, because these were printed in France. Now, Grenada issued another stamp. And of course, this was a series of different sheets and included like Pete Rose. Now, interesting about this sheet here that Clemente, because it's gambling and it was sponsored by the Major League Baseball, they decided that he had to be removed. So they went and changed some sheets, and you'll see some of these sheets. And it's still easy to find. They're not really rare, and you'll see it right there. It's missing. So that was his next stamp there. And that was issued in 1988, November 28th. The next one's from San Vincent and the Grenadines, and it was issued 21 December 92. And it was only 3 players, Hank Aaron, and then Tom Seaver and Roberto Clemente. Now, on this, they had some what we call gate folios. So they opened up gate folios. They got a $10 version right there on the side and a gold folio, and then we took them in the stamp. The biggest thing is looking at the date and then looking on the right side. It says what hit, and of course, in the bottom says where it was that hit, away, and who was the pitcher. The thing is, some people think it was 3,000 made. No, there were actually 9,000. So they had the 3, the 1, or the 2. So there were 9,000 made. And then they also made covers. Now, this cover here is from 1994. They used the same stamp. The reason was July 8th, because that's the day they dedicated the Roberto Clemente statue in Pittsburgh. And then you see this one is a legit gate folio. It says July 8, 1994. Only 3,000 were made. And they were made by the same company. So this was not the post office. This actually was licensed. The next one's from Nicaragua, the second from Nicaragua. And it's a sheet of 9. And it includes, again, Babe Ruth, Roger Hornsby, Johnny Bench, Tom Seaver. And then this was issued in 1996. And then you'll see that they also included Dennis Martinez, since he still was alive, on the cachets, which was a player from Nicaragua that played in the U.S. Major League Baseball. Now, San Vincent came up. Now, this one don't have any covers. And this one is a sheet, and it's about black baseball players. Now, Jackie Robinson, if anybody has a first day cover with this, I would like to know, because I have not seen any first day covers on this actual series right here. Now, one important thing that I want to identify is that Roberto Clemente was a great baseball player, but Jackie Robinson was also a great ball player. In the Air Force, we have a saying from Sir Isaac Newton. He said, if you've been able to see far, it's because you stood on the shoulders of giants. And that giant, when it comes to baseball, Jackie Robinson, because he broke that race barrier. And that's how Roberto Clemente got to get into the Major League Baseball. That's how other many players did. And also, Jackie Robinson had many of the giants, of course, because of Negro leagues and other people, great people. So that's the important thing. And of course, a lot of people talk about 1982. That's when also the Jackie Robinson stamp was issued. And that's when the Roberto Clemente was supposed to be issued, but it was moved to 1984. But the reason for that, I explain later on what the reason was for that. But it was totally separate from the Roberto Clemente stamp. Now, the last stamp that was issued, finished stamp, was Legends of Baseball. 20 players were selected, and one of them, of course, was Roberto Clemente. And you can find this in the full press sheet, which is 9 total panes. And you can find these on postcards, official mail postcards, and licensed postcards. And then this is a cover that I like. This was by Chris Hearns, and it's only 101 and canceled. And those are the 8. Now, I got this big question mark, like I mentioned earlier, because I don't have to answer what came first, the chicken or the egg or the chicken when it comes to stamps. So what I was able to do, like Lyle's right here, it could not be official, but I collect it. I don't recommend people to buy it because it's not too expensive, but it's not official. Because if this Clemente was going to be issued, and like I said, it was issued in 1999, I would have invited the whole Roberto Clemente family. It was so important, but that did not happen. So a way to rule them out, like this Angola one, is by a book. The book came first. Then they did this stamp sheet. So you know there's no way this could be legit. It has to be bogus or illegal or fake. So you see Roberto Clemente, but the reason I shared that first book, that first stamp at the beginning of the slides was because Roberto Clemente, he came from a poor background, and he used to use golf balls, and he used to tie strings around it and put tape to make a ball and just a branch to play baseball. And that's how he got started. And then when you're young, you dream big, and you want to be a baseball player, you want to be a doctor, you want to be a scientist. So that's why I want to make that connection. So the next one is also from the Falkland Islands, Beak Island, etc. And also there's a book with it. So you'll see here, especially on the right one right here, you'll see they used the book. So they're not official. And if Scott doesn't list them, I'll check other books like Minkus. But if Mitchell lists them, sometimes I question that one. And then again, you'll see it here again, a book. And this is the Democratic Republic of Congo. And it's not official. Now, Juan Lopez Bonilla. Now, Juan Lopez Bonilla, the connection to Roberto Clemente is that when Clemente was flying out in December 31st, 1972, Juan Bonilla was also in the airport. He was going home. He was there with his wife to celebrate New Year's Eve and celebrate the new year. By the time Juan Lopez Bonilla got home, the plane had crashed. So Juan Lopez Bonilla was there when actually that happened. And he did not know that eventually he was going to join the Navy, go to Vietnam, go to Yale University, become a graphic designer, and design the Roberto Clemente stamp. Now, my connection to Juan Lopez Bonilla, I was in Liberia during the Ebola. I left on my birthday, October 20th, and I came back February 19th of 2015. While in quarantine, I got an email from Juan Lopez Bonilla. Hey, I saw your website. I designed Roberto Clemente. So I was like, whoa. It's like a famous person called me. I said, okay. So I had to collect myself. I said, I'm going to call him. I paced around a little bit and I call him. Say hello. Like I was not important. And then he says, hey, how you doing? I saw your page. So I started talking. And he told me, hey, during the 1982 presentation at Yankee Stadium, when we talked about the stamp, I had a poster from Postmaster Bolger and I don't have it anymore. Don't know what happened. I said, don't worry about it. When I get out of quarantine, I'm going to drive from Fort Bragg all the way to Louisville, Kentucky, and I'll give you that poster. So that's what I did. And then this is Juan Lopez Bonilla on the right when I met him. Of course, I was like a little kid. So happy that I met him. He took me to the studio, showed me around, took me to a restaurant called Frogs. I mean, I didn't want to leave that day. He made my day. He made my day. And then the thing was interesting that he showed me his whole collection. And he says, well, if you have a scanner, you can scan them. And he did not know me really. So guess what I had? I had a scanner. I got a mobile scanner. You can see it right here. And I scanned his whole entire collection. So he gave me the permission to use it, to teach around. And that's what I've been doing since I met him. And now I'm going to present the two in order, chronological order of his exhibition. Now, this was the first thing he had to do, scribble, scrabble, when Postmaster Bolger came to him, Barry Thompson. Hey, get something done real quick so we can submit to the to CSAC. So he did. Now, he did also one, which was horizontal, and you see there with the flag of Roberto Clemente, but that didn't go too far. Eventually, he started drawing a baseball player to have it on a portrait. This was the first started designing. You'll see 20 cents. See Puerto Rico, the flag. They started modifying the player and the flag. Then you see 18 cents because it was supposed to be issued. Prior to that, they didn't know if it was going to change the cost nomination of buying a stamp. They had humanitarian Puerto Rican on the top. Then you see they start smoothing out the flag and the edges. And then this was the final they came up with, the first presentation with the 18-cent stamp. And then the lettering was done by Barry Thompson. And the next one he did was, of course, he used his profile. And you see there, Yale 81, Juan Lopez Bonilla, preliminary pencil sketch. Then you see here, of course, another profile. They put the dates because he was born August 1934, Puerto Rico, Roberto Clemente. Then with the 20 cents with an overlay. And you see again, the baseball cap stood white. And of course, the reason was because of the design and the colors. And then here the product, humanitarian athlete Puerto Rican, 18 cents. Let me go back here. And then eventually it became this stamp. Now I put this stamp to the right because it was a darker color at first, the recommendation. But then it changed to a lighter color. Not the lightest one, the lighter color. Now Ronald Trino. Now the reason I met him was because of American First Day Cover Society. I purchased a collection of 2015, and you can get those from on thumb drive from American First Day Cover Society. And you can get all the journals also from the American Topicals Association. They have all the ones from the first one they published to the current ones. Now, this one here, I had this photo profile canceled, didn't know about it until I read an article. I didn't read the back. I read an article about Ronald Trino, and Trino. And the thing was that he went the day prior, flew to Puerto Rico, bought 6,675 stamps, took them to New York the next day to get them canceled, gave 625 to another collector, took them to California. So if you have one of these collections, it's part of that 6,675 initial stamps. And he founded Fulton Stamp Company. He was also in the military. He was a Marine, and he actually created this. He did this all for Babe Ruth stamp also. So this is part of the collection, and I was able to locate it. Now my collection, full collection, I kind of kept it Roberto Clemente. This is the way it used to look. 4 years later, it's much more in there now. But my goal is, like I said, I promised Lopez Bonilla that I would promote the Roberto Clemente on stamps since I got to visit. That was part of my journey. Never knew I was going to meet him. And you see, I'm here with school students just showing about Roberto Clemente. I'm here with the niece of Roberto Clemente, Suma Clemente. And of course, during Clemente month, September 30th, when he hit his 3,000 hit, I kind of put my background during Zoom meetings with Roberto Clemente. And that's what I kind of do. And I call it the fourth collection. And then, of course, I did the presentation, and it says PRF Dance. That's in Austin, Texas. I go there every year. There's Roberto Clemente. And what they do is teach dancing, cultural dancing. And I said, you know what? I could bring stamps. Somehow we could dance and collect stamps. Now, ceremony programs. I only have two. There were actually like 3 ceremonies. One, of course, in 1982. The stamp was not issued, but was presented. They did one in 1984 in Puerto Rico. And then they did one in D.C. with the Bureau engraving and printing. And that was 1986. And the one in 1986, Ms. Vera Clemente was there. Juan Bonilla was also there. And on the Roberto Clemente, one of my soldiers saw my ceremony programs, and I had 4 with me. He's like, can I have one for Sergeant? I'm like, hold on, young grasshopper. I said, I have 4 because I like to extend. And I know how judges are when they're judging exhibits. So I have 4 because when you look at them, one is completely blank. They didn't put anything, no print. It was not printed. The second one is just the regular one. And then the third one has signatures, and the other one has the other signatures. So that's why I show 4 when I exhibit. So that's the reason. Now, EFOs, and that's why I belong to the American Photech Society. I try to get everything expertise through them. That's one of the best services they provide. So this was an EFO that I've chaired. And of course, like Samil talked about, integrating EFOs in your collection as a great way to extend and share that knowledge. So that's one right there. Now, this one here, I had not sent. I had this and I bought it on eBay for $65, a full sheet. The person that sold did not know it was an error. But if you see it, it's a shift. And it's also the angle. You'll start seeing Roberto on top. But if you separate the stamp, it's just Clemente. And then also, you'll see, of course, there's a piece of tape down here. But you see some lettering. It has a 1 and 9. So I haven't been able to figure out that part. But I have the full sheet. So there might be possibilities. I have not seen it in the EFO book. I will share with the EFO collectors, but I have a full sheets. So that's an EFO that once I get the certificate, but that's an excellent one to share. Now this journal cover here is one that was made, and I like it because, of course, it shows the centennial of baseball, issued 1939. It has the stamp from Oscar 801 and then Roberto Clemente. But the art right here that I enjoy is because it's a glove at rest, signifying that Clemente passed away. And then the coin was done by a lady named Betsy, and she made the coin, has the baseball player, has the DC flying, and then it says, "You're athlete, humanitarian." So only 20 covers were made, and this is number 18. Now, first day covers by Kendall. Now, he does a lot of them. This was for the 25th anniversary. I enjoy his art. Now, he did 450 of the regular cachets. He did 45 of the artist proofs. And then he did 20 of the ones with the Mr. Sip on top. So this is number 15. And his process is he'll do a rough drawing. Then he'll go ahead and send it out, get canceled. Then he'll come back and paint it. So if you see specks on the stamps, it's not an error. It's just from the paint when he was painting. Another one, this one is from Amy Faust. And I like Dorothy Knapp, those cachets from back in the day, I call it, because I still think I'm young. they actually do the research. Because you see here, she puts down the date he was born, the date, he passed away. And then she puts the quotes here. It says, I want to be remembered as a baseball player who gave all he had to give, Roberto Clemente. He was proud of where he came from, and that's what was passion motivating him. And of course, here it represents going to Pittsburgh and the city. Now, luckily, this is number 13 of 20. But when you go to stamp shows and you stamp dealers, when you buy stuff, make sure you have a poker face. Because sometimes when these envelopes, you'll find like a little cardboard inside. Don't question it. They tell you a price, just go ahead and buy it. Because I didn't question it. When I got home, this was inside. The actual original drawings to create his artwork. So you see the first part there, Dios Amigo Roberto Clemente. Then you see additional information. Then you see that she uses reference from a catch from 1962 when Roberto Clemente played against the Giants. Other from a page 29 from a book she used. Others with the quotes, ideas. Then more information from reference. And then she puts here Roberto Clemente and the three boys. Then a bigger picture shows where Puerto Rico's at. And that's what she did. Now, Carol Gordon is another one I collect. And out of this one, it's only 33 covers. And usually what I recommend for exhibitors if you could buy two, buy two. Because I know Liz Heisey showed how to exhibit. Sometimes you don't exhibit the back, or you make a copy and put it in the bottom. I like actually the whole information. So Carol Gordon puts a lot of stuff in the back. So I kind of use two to show. But of course, like this one because it shows the colonial architecture in Puerto Rico and shows about him being humanitarian. Now, I also, one of my collectors, I collect modern ones, is Nerle. Of course, because I ask for stuff, he kind of reads my mind and puts it there. This one, Have a Ball stamps came out. That was the football, the baseball, the golf ball, the volleyball. So he did this one here. And when I exhibit, I can exhibit in the wide page, but I could open the envelope up, and he uses quality paper, no gum, nothing. So it's awesome. And then I can say, hey, it's rare because only one was made. And then I do extra copies also. Now, postcards. You have official postcards. You have postcards in 1999. As far as the Black Americans on stamps, they issued postcards. And now this was authorized through licensing through the USPS, but includes Roberto Clemente. Roberto Clemente could be in many topics, and one of them is actually part of the Black Heritage Series. And you'll see here that they include them. And when you buy volume 1 and 2, it comes with a poster. I couldn't scan it because the poster's pretty big. It's about 11 by 14. But then you see all the other ones here, and you see the connections, of course, with Jackie Robinson. Now, Roberto Clemente, when you collect stamps, and the official way to collect stamps is doing the sports series topic. But also, the official way is the American sports personalities. That's where he's listed at. But that includes like Sugar Ray Robinson, Joe Louis, includes Babe Ruth, includes Babe Saharias, and Bobby Jones. Now, souvenir pages. You have commemorative panels. You also have the Postal Commemorative Society. Now, this one I like because you'll see it says 1983. It doesn't say 1982 or 84. It says that U.S. Postal Service for the Selvage 1983. There's no such thing that the Selvage was 1983. So I don't know if it's a typo, but they put 1983. But I use this one to display not at stamp shows. Actually, at anywhere that's not a stamp show, because this is a way to get new collectors. You're not giving too much information. You see a stamp, you see a cancel, and you get a quick information right there about that stamp. And then I put those to become very colorful, but that's how people get into stamps. Once you got them, then you could redirect them to stamp shows and to organizations. Now, autographs. Now, those that collect baseball cards can relate to this because they, get them expertized, authenticated, and they use slabs. So this is why I collected, because I find a connection with a stamp. Now, this was Larry Doby. And the reason I collected because Jackie Robinson was the first African-American player in the Major League Baseball, but National League. But the first one for the American League was Larry Doby, and he played for Cleveland. So then I had that signature. Now it's legit. I don't know, but I got a slab to say it should be legit. Now I also get autographs like when I meet people. I met the niece of Roberto Clemente, Suma Clemente, which I showed you in the photo, and then she put to Feliz. Now it's not Felix. She put the Z, which is happy, but I was fine because I was happy again that autograph. Now also you see in the bottom part that was from Juan Lopez Bonilla signature. So almost everything that deals with Roberto Clemente, I have his signature. Now a post office dedication happened in 2003, Roberto Clemente post office. There's also in Chicago a postal station dedicated to Roberto Clemente. This one's the one from Puerto Rico. Now this one, I ended with this one, the great one, because it talks about brotherhood through sports. You know, they all came from different journeys, from different places, but they had that love to collect stamps, that passion. And I want to include also Lou Gehrig, all these other baseball players that made contribution. Now, the connection that I have with those three on the bottom is they received the Presidential Medal of Freedom. The last one to receive one was Babe Ruth in 2019. The first one was Jackie Robinson in 1984, and then Roberto Clemente in 2003. Another connection is they all served in the military. Babe Ruth did the National Guard. Jackie Robinson was an officer in the Army. Roberto Clemente was a Marine in the reserves. So those are connections. And then you understand why they had that character, why they had that leadership, why they had that commitment, that competence. So that makes a connection. And then that makes a connection with me because I usually place, instead of brotherhood through sports, I said friendship through stamps. Because when I look at my Facebook page and I start seeing all my friends that I have on Facebook, they're all stamp collectors, or they're my family, or they're military members. And then now, since I've been collecting over 20 years, when I go to stamp show, it's not really to go buy stamps. It's to go say hi, give hugs, get people to join the ATA, chit chat, go eat. And that's why I like stamp shows. That's why I can't wait till this pandemic is over so we can attend stamp show. But they showed us that working together, that we could disagree on stuff, but we have more in common. Just the same thing with stamp collecting. And those are the important things that stamps do and stamps teach. So if I could make everybody a stamp collector, I'll make a stamp collector. And if I had a chance to talk to the president, I'll say, hey, you want to buy a stamp on this? I'll make him a stamp collector too. And he said, oh, you're great, Felix. It's awesome. Now, like I said, we were going to scream at the end. And in case it was kids and stuff, this would be sugar-free, ice cream for everyone, popsicles. And of course, I use stamps. And if everybody knows me, I collect Hot Wheels. So you see the cool ones there. And then, of course, it's time to scream for ice cream. And of course, some additional thank yous, everybody, for attending today's presentation. And of course, it was about to come in the stamp about us, about baseball, and a lot of other things. And of course, if it applies to you, change your clocks back on November 1st. Make sure your vote is your choice. And of course, the thank you stamp came this year. So you got to reach in the right letters and thank many people. And of course, you can contact AmericanTopical.org and our address is right there. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I'll stop share at this time.